Okay, hi, hello everyone. Welcome to the third day of the Decidim Fest. I have to say you're like the democracy warriors because it's raining here in Barcelona. It rains a bit and it's like we send alerts and it was, the sky is falling, you know. But so great that you are here. Yeah, we're going to start with the lightning talks. Yeah, if everyone, if you can come a bit closer to the stage because we're not that many people, and don't be shy because like it's better if we, you know, for the photos especially, but also for the speakers, because if not, it's like you have half of the room without people and so on. Okay, so great. Okay, the first set of lightning talks, we are going to talk about the use cases. We're going to have 5 presentations, and we'll be traveling a bit around Europe mostly. And so the first one, we're going to go to the Basque Country, where Asier is going to present us one use case of Decidim, but also we will go to Parma with Italian people, and also with Lars from Switzerland, and Carla and Núria from here Barcelona. They will present different initiatives around Barcelona and Catalonia. So without much to say, one thing about the languages, I think we're going to have a mix between Catalan, Spanish, and English. So sadly, we don't have like the translation that we had yesterday. So let's see it as a place where we all can study different languages. And yeah, that's it. Asier, the floor is yours.
Buen día, buen día. Esta no es la presentación, no pasa nada. Bueno, yo soy Asier Amezaga, vengo del País Vasco, Basque Country. Es un pueblo pequeño que está situado aquí, en los Pirineos, muy cerquita. Es un pueblo que está dividido entre Francia y España, igual que el pueblo catalán. Y en este lugar, en el País Vasco, tenemos una forma de organización tradicional que es una forma de organización tradicional de muchos otros pueblos que tal vez se pueda estar perdiendo, que tiene que ver con el trabajo comunitario y con el auzolan. El auzolan es una forma de implicarnos desde la realidad de nuestros pueblos pequeños en la gestión de los bienes comunes y esto de la cosa pública. Sobre el auzolan o el trabajo comunitario se ha escrito muchísimo. Hay 4 características que nos parecen importantes traer aquí. Una de ellas tiene que ver con juntarnos para un propósito común, que puede ser arreglar una fuente, abrir un paso, arreglar una plaza o, por qué no, también construir Decidim. En el auzolan hay otra característica importante que tiene que ver con el esfuerzo. Puede ser el esfuerzo físico de acercarnos a una plaza, a un camino, hacer un trabajo físico que nos cansa. Y esto también tiene que ver con, muchas veces, trabajar fuera de horarios, trabajar más allá de lo que en principio teníamos pensado. Y de esto no voy a hablar mucho más en esta comunidad. Creo que de esto sabemos bastante las personas que estáis aquí. En el auzolan también hay una combinación de trabajo comunitario con recursos o medios públicos. No podemos arreglar una carretera, una fuente o una plaza si no tenemos herramienta, un tractor o incluso, en algunos casos, algo de dinero que el propio ayuntamiento nos pudiera dar. Bueno, pues aquí tenemos Canódromo como otro ejemplo. Y también otra de las cosas que sucede en el auzolan tiene que ver con la convivencia. Conjuntarnos para hacer cosas juntas, para celebrar, para disfrutar de esos bienes que cuidamos y también, ¿por qué no?, para rozar y tener conflicto. Y si Decidim es una comunidad viva, entendemos que tiene que haber conflicto también aquí. Desde Komunikatik, que es la empresa a la que yo pertenezco, llevamos trabajando en torno a Decidim desde el año 2018. Me acuerdo de Andrés en aquel primer despliegue en la capital de Navarra, en Pamplona, pero después hemos acompañado muchas veces, la mayor parte de las veces, otras implementaciones de una manera discreta, no visible, en municipios pequeños como Getxo, Galdakao, Tolosa y otros proyectos similares. En este recorrido en Euskal Herria, en el País Vasco, hemos coincidido algunas veces con personas que están aquí, como por ejemplo Núria de Colectic y otras personas que están en esta Decidim Fest. Y volviendo al caso vasco, sí que me gustaría comentar una cuestión que tiene que ver con el nombre. El nombre que en muchos casos Decidim está adoptando en el País Vasco es la palabra erabaki. Erabaki en castellano significa decidir. Y no es del todo casualidad, tal vez, que en los lugares donde se está desplegando Decidim bajo la marca erabaki, nos encontramos una realidad de la participación que está muy asociada al foco de barrio, a los problemas concretos que afectan a comunidades muy concretas, lugares donde esas personas también se pudieran juntar en el auzolan y mejorar su comunidad. Porque esta forma de acceder, de participar, integra mucho lo pequeño, lo cotidiano, aquello que se decide en la plaza, donde podemos operar. Todavía hay lugares de Euskal Herria donde el auzolan es vivo, funciona y todavía no ha llegado Decidim. Esperemos que poco a poco podamos ir haciéndolo llegar. En esta lógica lingüística también quería traer otra palabra en euskera muy similar a erabaki, que significa ebatzi, que es resolver. Estas dos palabras que están incluidas en nuestra lengua nos invitan a entender la democracia, como ya hemos dicho muchas veces, no solamente desde una cuestión de toma de decisiones, sí o no, sino como un proceso deliberativo, en el cual a veces el propio proceso de sí o no es el que resuelve muchas de las contradicciones y cuestiones que se trabajan en lo local. Pero además, ahora me quiero centrar en otro ejemplo específico, un ejemplo práctico, y esto tiene que ver con que hemos empezado a desplegar Decidim en la Universidad del País Vasco. Este es un despliegue que lo estamos haciendo mediante un proceso participativo. En este proceso participativo existe un grupo motor que está integrado por el rectorado de la universidad, las diferentes direcciones, personal técnico universitario, alumnos, alumnas, profesores y profesoras. Este grupo de trabajo decide y planifica el despliegue de Decidim para los próximos años. Y en este grupo de trabajo hay 3 ejes fundamentales que tienen que estar alineados totalmente con el futuro de la plataforma. Y tienen que ver con, primero, participación, luego informática, donde vamos a poner Decidim, y por otro lado, una estrategia de comunicación que apoye no solamente el lanzamiento de Decidim, sino que se integre en el día a día de los procesos participativos. Entendemos que la comunicación no está al servicio de la participación, sino que la comunicación es parte de la participación. Y con ello queremos diseñar un plan, un producto mínimo viable que nos ayude a desplegar Decidim en la universidad. Para nosotras esto es un ejemplo también de colaboración. Diferentes agentes se suman y se ponen a trabajar. Pero este despliegue no solo responde a una necesidad técnica, o esta forma de desplegar Decidim no solamente responde a una necesidad técnica, es también una declaración política. Hacer de Decidim una infraestructura pública y construida desde y para la comunidad universitaria es en sí esta declaración. Tratamos de alcanzar un nivel de implicación institucional y transversal que garantice a la comunidad el compromiso colectivo y la estabilidad de esta infraestructura democrática. Osondo. Muy bien. Gracias, Andrés. Una infraestructura pública no se limita a poner un servidor con código fuente de Decidim. Una infraestructura pública significa integrar en la vida universitaria todos los aspectos que tienen que ver con el desarrollo de la plataforma. Significa consolidar la gobernanza de la misma, dotarlo de recursos técnicos que no dependan de voluntarismos ni tampoco de cambios de ciclos políticos. Solamente así realmente podemos entender el software libre como una herramienta a favor de la democracia, cuando somos capaces de integrarlas en la lógica de la propia institución. Porque entendemos que desde aquí es cuando es posible también cuidar este bien común y este bien público. Y ahora os voy a comentar cómo está siendo la presencia del euskera en nuestro idioma, el idioma vasco, en Decidim. Si vemos en coding, realmente el euskera está en el tercer, a nivel de traducciones, está en la tercera posición. Y esto es algo muy singular, porque el euskera es un idioma hablado únicamente por 900.000 personas, es un idioma minoritario, y además en la realidad vasca solo tenemos 6 despliegues de Decidim. Y esto tiene que ver mucho con cómo entendemos desde el País Vasco lo que tiene que ver con la cultura de participación. Traducir al euskera Decidim no es solamente hacer una equivalencia de palabras, significa mucho más allá. Significa entender que para que Decidim arraigue en el País Vasco tiene que haber algo relacionado con la propia cultura. Y esta es la forma que tenemos de entender Decidim. No solamente se trata de desplegar un software, se trata de hacer que una comunidad sienta que ese software es parte de su bien que debe cuidar y proteger. Y para finalizar, volvemos a recuperar estas características del auzolan que nos parecen importantes. Cuando hablamos de un compromiso común, la vocación del esfuerzo físico y mental, los medios necesarios para desarrollar el auzolan, el trabajo comunitario, que en este caso también son públicos. Y también hablamos de convivencia, un espacio para celebrar, para disfrutar y también para, ¿por qué no?, para el roce y el conflicto, porque es, al fin y al cabo, hacer cosas juntas es rozar. Si no hiciéramos cosas juntas, nunca rozaríamos. Y este es nuestro reto, llevar estas características del auzolan a la forma en la que estamos desplegando Decidim en el País Vasco, pero que también son características esenciales de la red y de la comunidad Decidim. Y con esto termino.
Okay, now we're going to travel to Parma, where Giulia and Michele, they're going to present us their experience at Parma. I met them on 2019, no, when they invited me to talk on Milan, so it's always nice to see, like, 6 years later, you guys present. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Andres. Hello everyone, we are Michele and Giulia from Italy and from Pares, that is an Italian cooperative working on public participation, civic engagement and democratic innovation. Since 2019 we've been working with Decidim, helping public institutions and non-profit organizations in raising platforms to manage participatory processes. Today we are talking about ParmaPartecipa, so one of the platform we built, we are managing. ParmaPartecipa, as you can maybe imagine, is the platform of the municipality of Parma. Parma is a city of around 200,000 inhabitants in the northern Italy. It's an important cultural and economic center for our country. And it has a long-standing tradition about civic activism, association activism, And then in the last years, the municipality spent a lot of effort in promoting and supporting participatory processes. In 2024, they decided to activate ParmaPartecipa during a review process of the official regulation of participation for the city. And while they did this review, they decided to give to ParmaPartecipa a key role, to make ParmaPartecipa the heart of this participation ecosystem. So now we can, maybe all of you know Parma for food, Parmesan cheese, but even now for the Decidim platform. Okay, sorry. How can I switch to the next? Oh, no, maybe with this one. Okay, sorry. Okay. The platform, it has three main environments, as you can see. So the classic processes section, where hosted temporary initiatives. Then there is this neighborhood lab section, and it's made by the assemblies area. Giulia will talk about it. And then the collaboration packs section, and I will talk it on the next slide. And it is a single process. The authentication is on speed, that is the official Italian public identity digital system. But we developed a backdoor just for the minors, so the people, the citizens aged between 16 and 18, and so they can access with email, password, and tax ID code check to check their age. The version of the platform now is 0.26.5. We know it's getting old, but an update is planned for the next month. What about this collaboration pacts area? First, collaboration pacts are agreements, and it's an Italian participatory, a particular Italian participatory process. They are agreement between municipality and citizens or association or companies for the shared management of public goods, basically. This thing formalize the shared administration of a general asset, basically, such as parks or buildings or even immaterial things like, for example, Parma dialect. We have in this area we have these two main components that are, as you can see, a map where every single pact, every place where a pact is activated is geolocalized, and there is a proposal. It's a proposal, of course. So every pact has a page with the whole text of the pact the municipality signed. And then there is another proposal that is used to submit a proposal, so the citizens can ask to start a new pact. And it's interesting the fact that now it's the official procedure, so the municipality integrated it in their classic procedure, so now this is the official channel to ask to start a new pact.
So let's see the next section, which is the neighborhood labs section. Neighborhood labs in Parma are participatory spaces formally established by the new regulation on participation. And, okay, can you hear me? Yes. And neighborhood labs involve citizens, associations, informal groups, and they meet physically in the labs to discuss needs, common needs, find a common solution, and start collaboration to improve everyday life in their neighborhood. So each lab has its own space on the platform. So we have 11 assembly on the platform, a lot to take care of. And each assembly has a member page, meeting component where they can share minutes of their meetings and report results of the meetings. And then they have a collaborative calendar where they can share a local event in the neighborhood, and also a space for debate. Decidim was also used during the enrollment process. So people can use a proposal to submit a proposal to join the neighborhoods lab. And each proposal had to be supported by at least 25 sign, and we use the support feature to collect these supports with an ad hoc authentication authorization that we developed. Then we decided to give the administration of these spaces in the hands of the participants themselves. So each labs have 3 or 4 people who have administrative roles, so they can manage the space from the back end. And this is a very good strategy to give them power and empowering for the platform. Then these persons are those that can share proposals on a main assembly, where the municipality can evaluate their proposals and give public feedback on this proposal in within 19 days. Okay, so let's go to the final slide that we like to share with you some highlights and consideration. The city of Parma is one of the most important cities in Italy that decided to adopt Decidim as a formally and long-term institutional tool. I mean, many other cities that we support use Decidim, but Parma want to formally integrate the platform into their new regulation on participation. And the platform and the regulation were born at the same time. I mean, we designed the platform together with the regulation. And that was a really interesting and challenging socio-technical design process, you know. Now we can have some results after almost 1 year of use. And we can see that the main results now at this stage is in terms of transparency and accountability. No? So all the proposals are shown on the platform, public feedback is given to citizens on the platform, and this is increasing trust in the public administration from the citizen. The main challenge that we are facing at this stage is linked with the management, with the governance of this platform. And so we are still thinking about whether it's better to have a centralized management in charge of the offices of participation, rather than a more cross-sectors team. And this is linked with some issues. You know, Decidim is not always easy to manage. You need skills, very different kind of skills in communication, skills in technical, skills in management of participatory projects. It's not always easy to find all these skills in the same team. And so the main issues is the key question is how to ensure that ParmaPartecipa will become a really engagement tool for the entire municipality, and not only for the participation office that is the main office that wants it, but we like to have a more engagement of all the offices in the municipality. Thank you.
Okay, now Lars is going to explain to us another use case of Decidim, this time on a natural disaster or something like that. So please, Lars, the floor is yours.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Lars Kaiser. I'm from Equipe. Equipe is one of the Decidim partners, and we focus on democratizing spatial development, of which Decidim, of course, is a very important part to us. And I chose this topic, using Decidim in rebuilding a town after a national disaster, based on something that happened in May. And I might need to disappoint you at first. Decidim, finally, in the end of this process, wasn't used. I have to point there. Yeah, it works. So what happened is that, I'll tell you what happened later, but finally, when the call for contributions was opened up, I thought this is a use case that we really need to test out and also try as a community. So the learnings from this use case are really important to share, if Decidim is used, but also if Decidim in the end isn't used. So what natural disaster are we talking about? You might have heard in May 2025, we had a big rockfall landslide in Switzerland in the Valais region. And this rockfall, it completely obliterated the town of Blatten. Luckily, no, there was only one casualty. It was quite a cute story of a sheep herder that didn't want to leave his herd. But other than that, the entire town was evacuated on the eve before the rockfall happened. And this led to the fact that, the entire town is no longer there. All the inhabitants are currently spread out through the Valais region. They're living with family, they are living in other apartments. And this once closely knit community is now completely dispersed. And what we thought, well, this is an interesting use case to actually apply a Decidim platform. From a process standpoint, we were quite lucky because there was already a planning office and a planning process that was initiated in 2024 that dealt on how the future of the Lütschental Valley, where Blatten is located, how the future of this valley shall be organized. And this wasn't a process that was focused on the rockfall, because that happened before, so the process was initiated before. But of course, these remote towns and villages, they face a lot of structural challenges, especially if they're not in really touristic regions in the mountains. So there was already this ongoing process organized by the company Planval, where all the four communes of the town came together, and they were part of this strategic process. And they were also involved in the aftermath after the disaster. They had a workshop on the day before the evacuation, and they also had workshops after the evacuation. And it was really important for all the municipalities in the valley that this process will continue now more than ever, because now you have to rebuild the town. So a week after the rockfall, they approached us and asked, hey, this would be a really cool use case for Decidim, because this dispersed community somehow needs a means to communicate, needs a means to stay in touch with each other, and also start developing and discussing the future of the town. So there's wild discussions going on in Switzerland about if this should be rebuilt or not. And it's really emotional discussions that are taking place, which is why we also agreed that this is an interesting use case for Decidim. And within 2 days, using the product Voca from Octree, we were able to set up a Decidim platform right in front of the next workshop, where the people of the valley came together again and had the first meeting on what to do with the town. And in this meeting, it was decided, yes, we actually want to have this Decidim platform. It was seen as a really valuable contribution, and that the political process should be taken to approve this platform. Now, why didn't it happen? I have a quote here from someone that was involved directly with the township. I'd like to read it to you. "We have initiated many things with great enthusiasm, but as you can imagine, there are so many vultures preying on the people in the valley that nothing is happening at the moment. I wrote the concept for an online and offline meeting place, which was approved by the Valley Council. We could have started implementing it, but everything got bogged down in some administrative quagmire. The population welcomed the platform with open arms, but it got stuck on the political level." So what happened in the aftermath of the rockfall was that there was a huge wave of solidarity with the entire valley. There was lots and lots of donations that were poured into the valley, and this was always portrayed quite publicly in the media. So everyone knew there was a lot of money that was flowing to this valley. And that actually led to many architect, planning offices, other investors approaching the communities and offering their help, but of course kind of offering their help because they saw the potential for projects and also for financial benefit from the situation. This is what she refers to as the vultures. And this generally led to a completely overload for the town council, because they didn't know who was real and who wasn't, and who was just trying to benefit from the situation, which ended up creating a total blockade where nothing was decided at all. So this was quite frustrating for us, especially because everything was ready, the platform was there, the people were motivated to use it, but in the end we weren't allowed to share the link to the platform for the people to join. And for this, I think for us as a Decidim community, there are 3 learnings that I'd like to present to you. These learnings are of course, quite subjective, and I'm really open to discussing them as well. One was the demand for the platform was evident, so it was really here. Also, the town council saw it, that we needed this platform. It just wasn't a priority in the decision-making process to approve it. But it failed in the general overload for those people, or of those people with decision-making power. And I think for us, or for the next time we want to do this, we need to ask ourselves, is there another way? Maybe we can go straightly using the citizens and just deploy the platform and share it, and then have it as a more grassroots activist kind of platform, and then later on, when it's working, then have the talk about how official is this platform going to be or not, because what's really important is that the support structure is there. The second learning was that maintaining social contacts and cohesion was seen as a soft skill by the Valley administration, and thereby not deemed a priority in the aftermath of the catastrophe. This is somewhat understandable, because of course there is a lot of things they need to consider, a lot of things going on. There's still certain threats and dangers to life. But also as a Decidim ecosystem, or as partners providing Decidim services, we could come up with an argumentarium to support why, especially also the social factors and the social cohesion is so important in the aftermath of such events, especially if it doesn't cost anything more, so it's just an added benefit. The third learning is that in these cases, I don't think it would have changed anything in this specific case, but for the next time, I think it might be better if the towns and the communes are not approached by service providers, but rather by the Decidim project itself, representing the whole technopolitical idea. And we might have more success with this, which is also why I'm really happy that we're finally able to go ahead with the Swiss local chapter, so that in the next, I don't hope there's going to be a next catastrophe soon, but in case there will be something like this, the Decidim project can approach and offer help proactively. Yes, really happy to discuss this also in the coffee break afterwards if you see it differently, and thank you very much for listening.
Okay, now Carla is going to present us the participatory budgeting process here in Barcelona.
Hola, bon dia. M'escolteu? Sí. Vale, jo soc la Carla, soc tècnica de participació d'aquí de l'Ajuntament de Barcelona i la meva intervenció, la idea és dedicar-la a explicar el cas d'ús de pressupostos participatius i centrar-me en una part molt específica que és la valoració tècnica de les propostes que vam desenvolupar per aquesta segona edició. A la ciutat de... A la ciutat de Barcelona aquest 2025 hem finalitzat la votació de la segona edició de pressupostos participatius, un instrument de democràcia directa on la ciutadania proposa, prioritza, concreta i escull els projectes d'inversió a executar a la ciutat al llarg d'aquest mandat. En aquesta edició s'ha posat a disposició de la ciutadania 30 milions d'euros que estan distribuïts entre els 10 districtes de la ciutat i les propostes que s'havien de proposar o que es podien proposar havien de ser projectes d'inversió, amb el sentit d'evitar comprometre despesa corrent important al llarg dels següents anys. Les propostes a presentar anaven relacionades amb la millora de l'espai públic, amb la millora d'equipaments de titulat municipal o amb la compra i rehabilitació de béns immobles. Es tracta d'un projecte transversal de ciutat per dues raons. D'una banda, perquè s'adapta per adreçar-se a tota la ciutat, és a dir, tenint en compte la realitat dels 10 districtes, s'adapta també per incloure la infància en aquest procés de decisió i s'acompanya els col·lectius d'origen divers per facilitar la participació i que puguin formar part d'aquest pressupost, que formin part del projecte de pressupostos participatius. Alhora també aquest procés d'adaptació de tot el procés i tota la metodologia de pressupostos participatius en si fa que tota l'organització estigui implicada en les diferents fases del procés. Es tracta d'un procés molt llarg, són 5 fases de procés distribuïdes en 8 mesos que les distribuïm d'aquesta manera. Una primera fase de debat i recollida de propostes, una segona de valoració tècnica i de redacció de les respostes, una tercera fase en la que la ciutadania prioritza aquelles propostes que han estat acceptades o acceptades amb condicions. En aquesta fase es redueixen les propostes a 25 per districte amb la intenció de poder treballar amb un volum de propostes una mica més assumible de cara a la següent fase. La fase de concreció és una fase en què les promotores i tècniques municipals treballen conjuntament sobre els detalls finals d'aquestes propostes. Aquesta fase és molt important, sobretot en les propostes que van ser acceptades en condicions, és a dir, és un moment en el què s'ha d'acabar de modificar les propostes presentades inicialment perquè compleixin amb les condicions que s'establien en el procés. I, per últim, una cinquena fase de votació final de les propostes, que en aquest cas va acabar el 17 de maig del 2025. Totes les fases d'aquest procés estan informades a Decidim Barcelona. A través de la plataforma de participació de l'Ajuntament és l'espai on s'articula i es segueix absolutament tot aquest procés de pressupostos participatius. És l'espai, d'una banda, on informar sobre les sessions de debat, les fases del procés i sobre els punts de suport que es van organitzar per tota la ciutat. És l'espai també on presentar les propostes i fer el seguiment d'aquestes, és a dir, si la proposta ha estat acceptada, rebutjada i en quin moment hem deixat de tenir aquesta proposta dintre del procés. És també la cuina de la valoració tècnica de totes les propostes presentades i on es prioritza i vota. Actualment, a més, és l'espai on es pot fer el seguiment de l'execució de les 76 propostes seleccionades. En la primera fase de debat i recollida de propostes, que va tenir una durada de 2 mesos, es van fer un total de 109 sessions de debat, territorialitzades i per col·lectius específics. Es van habilitar 58 oficines de suport amb l'objectiu de minimitzar al màxim possible l'escletxa digital i facilitar a tota la ciutadania la presentació de propostes i, resultat de tot això, vam acabar recollint 1.733 propostes i de participants en vam tenir més d'uns 2.500. Aquest gran volum de propostes ens portava a un dels grans reptes d'aquesta segona edició, i és com fer que els tècnics i les tècniques municipals treballessin també dins de la plataforma de Decidim.Barcelona, on quedés recollit tot el procés de valoració de les propostes i, per tant, on quedés justificat què és el que havia passat amb cadascuna de les propostes presentades. Per què és important això? Totes les propostes, tant si són d'espai públic com d'equipament, necessiten la mirada de diversos equips, perquè impliquen intervencions molt concretes, molt específiques sobre jocs infantils, sobre verd, i a més estan territorialitzades en un barri molt concret, en un districte molt concret, que necessites el coneixement de diversos equips tècnics. Tot i així, tot i que cadascú té el seu coneixement compartimentat, les decisions es prenen en una única taula de districte. Per tant, era imprescindible trobar un espai en el que poguéssim compartir tot aquest coneixement. Per l'avaluació d'aquestes 1.733 propostes van treballar 68 tècniques municipals que en total van sumar més de 4.700 valoracions internes. Aconseguir que Decidim fos un espai de treball col·laboratiu entre tècniques municipals tenia diverses implicacions. D'una banda, generava un espai col·laboratiu únic entre tècniques on compartir coneixement i on consultar també el coneixement de la resta d'equips. Alhora, evitava la generació d'espais de treball paral·lels, 200 mails, 200 excels, 20.000 cops actualitzats, i alhora millorava la qualitat tècnica de les respostes que es podia donar a la ciutadania. Alhora, tenir tot aquest espai, tot aquest coneixement en un mateix espai, facilitava també la decisió final sobre quines respostes podia donar aquestes propostes. Aquestes necessitats que detectàvem les teníem limitades amb l'espai actual de notes privades i és per aquesta raó que es va desenvolupar dins del panell d'administració un espai d'avaluació interna. Un espai d'avaluació interna on cada avaluadora tenia com la seva caixeta per identificar quin era el seu sentit de l'avaluació i justificar el seu sentit de l'avaluació. Això permetia, d'una banda, consultar què és el que valorava cadascun d'ells i identificar qui havia valorat què, i alhora, per les persones que gestionàvem el procés, ens permetia també saber en quin punt estàvem, quantes valoracions teníem i si estàvem llestos ja per valorar tècnicament les propostes i enviar les respostes. La generació d'aquests espais facilitava alhora la decisió de les taules tècniques de districte on es prenien les decisions finals. El resultat d'aplicar tots aquests canvis dintre del panell d'administració de les propostes és que les avaluadores afirmen i consideren que ha millorat la qualitat tècnica de les valoracions però també és cert que, tot i així, les impulsores, és a dir, la ciutadania que ha presentat propostes, segueixen reclamant encara major informació sobre aquestes valoracions tècniques. És a dir, hem fet un pas important, però hem de seguir treballant. Un cop feta tota la valoració tècnica, arribàvem a les fases de priorització i votació, que també hem tingut certes novetats en aquesta segona edició. Hem aplicat per primer cop la votació sense registre a través dels usuaris efímers que generaven automàticament després de la validació contra padró. La participació tant en priorització com en votació ha augmentat respecte a la primera edició. A la fase de priorització van participar més de 29.000 persones contra les 11.000 de la primera edició i en la fase de votació més de 55.000 persones contra les gairebé 40.000 del 2021. Un cop finalitzat aquest procés, hem estat treballant amb enquestes i sessions presencials per la seva avaluació i, entre d'altres, podem afirmar que hi ha hagut un augment de la participació en totes les fases, des de la fase de debat des de la fase de debat fins a la votació final. D'altra banda, també podem afirmar que és un model consolidat. Més del 90% de les participants que van contestar les enquestes d'avaluació estan d'acord amb aquest model i consideren que s'ha de repetir. Però també tenim elements de millora que ja tenim identificats i que ja que estem aquí relacionats amb la plataforma, les participants destacaven sobretot la necessitat de millora de l'experiència d'usuària i la millora de la traçabilitat de les propostes. En paral·lel a tot aquest treball d'avaluació del procés, hem començat també l'execució de propostes, que a Decidim Barcelona tenim ja volcades totes les 76 propostes seleccionades i on es pot consultar tant el percentatge d'execució com la cronologia de l'evolució de cadascuna de les propostes, és a dir, totes les reunions que fem amb promotores, en quin punt de contractació dels equips tècnics està, etc. I ja està.
Okay, so great. Finally, from this slot, Núria is going to present us the case of a Catalan cooperative for energy, Som Energia. Núria.
Gràcies. Soc la Núria, soc de la cooperativa Colectic, som partner de Decidim i treballem en projectes que treballen tecnologia i transformació social. No només fem tasques de participació, també fem altres àrees. Bé, en concret vinc a explicar-vos l'acompanyament que hem fet a la cooperativa Som Energia, que els hem acompanyat a reformular i a repensar la seva participació digital. Primer, per qui no ho conegui, la cooperativa Som Energia és una cooperativa de consum i producció d'energies renovables. El que vol oferir és a la seva base social, als seus socis, la possibilitat d'utilitzar energia 100% renovable i comercialitzada amb un preu just. No només és important el treballar amb energies renovables, sinó que el que busca és sobretot tenir una base social de membres actius que estiguin treballant per la transició energètica justa i futura. Aleshores, està distribuïda al llarg de tot el territori català i d'Espanya. Estem parlant de potser la cooperativa catalana més gran que fa servir Decidim. Són més de 85.000 membres que formen part de la cooperativa. Aleshores, la situació en què ens vam trobar. Com heu vist, té una gran base social, 85.000 membres. D'aquesta base social no tota és activa o està funcionant de manera molt activa en el funcionament de la cooperativa. Té una petita part d'aquesta base que està més mobilitzada, que està organitzada a través o dels grups locals o de les comunitats d'autoproducció d'energia. Aquesta petita base més mobilitzada està acostumada a una participació presencial, no a una participació digital com la que estem veient aquests dies, sinó és una participació basada en el presencial i recolzada potser en algunes eines digitals com WhatsApp, Telegram o Google Drive. I és una base que té una part de reticència en utilitzar noves plataformes de participació o noves eines de participació. Amb tot, la cooperativa tenia un Decidim ja funcionant que feia servir sobretot per a les assemblees generals. Entenia que cada assemblea general es generava un procés de participació en el que prèviament, el dia de l'assemblea, es debatien els ítems de l'assemblea, els punts de l'ordre del dia de l'assemblea, es generava un debat sobre la plataforma, es compartia la documentació i el dia de l'assemblea es realitzava la votació sobre la plataforma Decidim. Aquests eren els usos principals que es feia servir de la plataforma fins aleshores, tot i que també s'han trobat alguns altres usos més anecdòtics de consulta sobre algun procés concret de reglament de règim intern o casos molt concrets i tal. Però una participació que es donava com molt desestructurada i no dintre de ninguna manera de trobar-hi sentit o fil conductor entre les diferents accions de participació. Aleshores, nosaltres, per on vam començar? Teníem el repte d'organitzar la participació de 85.000 persones. Es vol encoratjar que no només aquesta base més mobilitzada sigui la que participa, sinó que sigui tota la base social de la cooperativa la que acabi fent ús d'aquesta plataforma. Aleshores, primer, per nosaltres va ser important conèixer en profunditat la cultura cooperativa, com què entenen per participació en aquesta cooperativa i hem realitzat diferents grups focals de treball per poder plasmar, conèixer aquesta cultura cooperativa. Ens vam trobar amb una part de sòcies organitzades, amb part de l'equip tècnic i també amb sòcies no organitzades, gent que no havien estat actives en aquests espais de participació que s'havien donat fins ara. Aleshores, d'aquestes 3 sessions de treball amb aquests 3 grups localitzats, quines conclusions en vam treure? Doncs que és important posar ordre a la instància, que la gent arriba a una instància i saber més o menys què és el que es trobarà d'una manera fàcil. I també es valorava molt positivament la possibilitat que la instància Decidim de Som Energia oferís una part de participació o una opció de participació no estructurada, no regulada. Amb tot també havien d'incorporar la participació que s'havia donat fins ara, aquesta participació potser més orgànica de la pròpia cooperativa. Havíem de posar incorporar tot això. Aleshores, per posar ordre, vam intentar crear una estructura que fos més senzilla i que ens resolgués aquests 3 reptes. Primer, saltant-nos a l'estructura bàsica d'un Decidim, en què ens dividim a les accions de participació en assemblees o en processos. A nosaltres no ens interessava aquesta divisió tan clàssica, sinó vam intentar saltar-nos aquesta estructura. També, el segon repte va ser crear una plataforma que mostrés de manera molt intuïtiva i clara aquests 2 espais de participació o aquestes 2 maneres d'entendre la participació que volíem integrar en aquesta plataforma. Una manera potser més desestructurada i una altra manera que responia al calendari de participació de la pròpia cooperativa. I el tercer repte que també era el de mantenir i integrar tota la participació que s'havia donat fins aleshores a la cooperativa, que tenia un gran històric d'assemblees i de processos que s'havien anat generant. Aleshores, aquesta és la nostra proposta de simplificació, que vista així potser no sembla molt simple, però en el fons sí que veiem una primera... Perdó. Representaria la part que creem per les sòcies no organitzades, la gent que es vol... Aviam com puc col·laborar amb Som Energia sense participar en grups locals o en les assemblees o en tal, i la resta d'espai, que es veu més complex, respon a el que és el calendari democràtic de la cooperativa, és a dir, al seu calendari d'accions de participació per la governança de la cooperativa. Aleshores, això tècnicament com ho hem fet? Hem generat una estructura a través de diferents assemblees, generant una estructura jeràrquica entre elles, perquè era la manera d'aconseguir un fil d'Ariadna que ens ajudés a veure en quin punt d'aquest arbre estàvem. Després, com ens he comentat, cada una de les accions que tenim en el calendari democràtic, és a dir, les assemblees generals o les trobades que hi ha als grups locals, cada una d'aquestes accions són processos, perquè són unes accions que tenen una data d'inici, un espàs entremig i un fi, i les vinculem en aquest marc d'assemblees, en aquesta estructura d'assemblees que hem creat a través dels continguts relacionats. I després, per poder-ho fer tot això molt més visual i fàcil de navegar entre elles, hem fet servir blocs HTML per facilitar aquesta navegació visual. Aquí tenim el que seria la nostra portada del Participa. Com heu vist, tenim aquests 2 grans blocs. Aquí intentem aconseguir aquesta navegació visual amb 2 grans blocs, en què tenim una primera opció, digues la teva, on el que és aquest espai de participació no estructurada, i aquesta segona part, en el Participa decideix, que correspon a aquest calendari d'accions de participació de la cooperativa. Dins de digues la teva, tenim diverses accions, com aquestes accions de participació que s'ofereixen, que s'obren en aquest espai. Un espai de crides de l'acció, de call to actions, ara mateix podem fer una campanya per, no sé què, i a xarxes tots podem publicar aquests posts, una mena de crides a l'acció a la línia de la cooperativa, un espai de trobades obertes en què ens podem, en què es pengen diferents trobades i sessions informatives sobre les temàtiques que s'estan treballant, i un fòrum de participació no estructurada en què tothom pot participar i dir la seva, etc. El segon espai, que és aquest més estructurat del calendari democràtic, són aquests 4 grans blocs d'accions de participació que es van realitzant durant l'any, durant tot el cicle de participació de la cooperativa. Les assemblees generals, els grups de treball temporals, mocions, això ja és com aquesta cultura cooperativa que tenen elles. Dintre de, per exemple, la gran conversa, que és un dels processos de participació estratègica que ara s'acaba d'arrencar, ja tenim la vinculació dels processos en si que s'estan generant. Tenim l'històric, el del 23-24, i ara acabem de publicar el que estem arrencant, el del 25-26. Això, quines dificultats ens hem trobat tirant endavant aquesta proposta? Primer, que tenim una pèrdua de consistència en la informació quan estem passant d'assemblees a processos. Aquest fil d'Ariadna, que està molt ben valorat per les usuàries, que em pot saber la jerarquia d'espais on estic navegant, es perd quan jo passo, salto a un procés, no em funciona. No tinc un fil d'Ariadna que m'ajudi. També és una miqueta complicat quan fas servir el Decidim per poder aplicar estils CSS, dir-li la prioritat en cada llegir aquests estils perquè, no sé, l'ordre en què ho fa, aleshores una miqueta assaig i error. I també una cosa que també ens va dificultar bastant és com funcionen o com reaccionen els espais destacats, perquè es salten qualsevol divisió que puguis fer amb àrees o scopes o tags, perquè destaquen a sobretot. I això no ens funcionava tampoc a nosaltres. Acabant. Quines són les següents passes? Ara estem arrencant el primer procés, estem obrint aquesta instància amb el primer procés, que és una cosa que encara estem testejant i estem funcionant i que modificarem segurament amb el camí. La següent passa que estem fent és documentar a nivell de dinamització de la plataforma. Farem guies especialitzades en la qual s'incloguin no només l'ús tècnic de la plataforma, sinó estratègies d'utilització d'aquesta específiques segons diferents equips. És diferent una guia per a un equip de comunicació que per a un equip de, no sé. Aleshores, ho treballem amb diferents equips i generarem aquestes guies i plantejarem que cada cop es vagi fent servir més la plataforma de participació de menys a més, és a dir, no demanem que ara es publiquin totes les actes a la plataforma o es faci tot damunt de la plataforma, sinó comencem a poc, que cada cop comencem ara fent la relatoria de les sessions i les pengem a la plataforma, després farem les inscripcions, a poc anirem fomentant que hi hagi més ús d'aquesta plataforma. I ja està, per acabar, aprenentatges per nosaltres organitzar o ajudar en l'organització de la participació a gran escala, com a 85.000 persones, no és petita, ha sigut primer entendre bé la cultura de cada organització, no és el mateix una cooperativa que una altra, totes tenim una cultura diferent. Importantíssim simplificar la navegació a la plataforma, és una cosa que ha sigut el repte principal d'aquest projecte i també que s'adapti als diferents nivells d'implicació de les persones. I ja està. Moltes gràcies.
Hacemos preguntas, sí. Okay, now if anyone has questions about any of the 5 presentations that we have seen, this is the time where you can ask to any of the speakers. Yeah, we have microphones there.
My question is for the presentation for Decidim Barcelona. I think I often see the numbers of proposals, the numbers of processes. I've always been really curious at the number of comments that exist on the platform. So how many comments are on the platform?
Comentarios, sí. Sí, sí.
Però contesto en català.
Sí, contesto.
Teníem comentaris oberts a la presentació de propostes, és a dir, quan qualsevol ciutadà presentava la seva proposta hi havia els comentaris oberts i hi havia 2 funcions d'aquests comentaris.
Té el mòbil. Bueno, no sé, sí, if you want, you understand, or like Okay, yeah, they have open comments like on the first phase of creation of proposals, no? Sorry.
I llavors el que fèiem d'una banda és respondre a totes les propostes dient si complien o no els requisits, és a dir, perquè la gent no hagués d'esperar 2-3 mesos a saber si seria rebutjada o no o si podia fer algun canvi.
So they have technicians that were actually replying or like leaving a comment inside of each of the proposals, like giving a quick feedback on what they thought that this, like a soft answer. So yeah.
I understand. I'm curious about what the numbers.
The numbers.
6.000. 6.003.
6,000. Yeah. Yeah. They were winning time, so to get the answer, yeah. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if anyone has any other question for each of the presentations from. Because if not, we can go with the next slot that is going to be presented by.
One more question.
Yeah, one more question?
Yeah, so the last slide had something to do with defining organizational culture, and I'm just wondering, like a practical example of how that is accomplished. So.
Like, sobre la cultura participativa, ¿no? De una mica com aconsegueix que això passi a nivell organitzacional. I don't know, maybe can you reformulate the question, because I think that, yeah, she didn't understand it that well.
No, the last slide had to do with simplifying the use of the apps and that type of thing, which I understand, but defining organizational culture is what was on the slide, and I'm just trying to understand what the definition of that might be.
La definición de la última slide, no sé si la tienen para ahí, pero de definir la cultura organizacional.
Sí, sí.
De quina manera influeix la cultura organitzativa, que deies a l'última diapositiva, no? De quina manera, és a dir, quin paper juga la cultura organitzativa en el que has explicat, vaja. De quina manera es té en compte la cultura organitzativa.
Quan fem aquesta jerarquia d'espais de participació amb unes accions concretes, en el fons això és el que intentem explicar com a cultura organitzativa sobre la plataforma, és a dir, les trobades que fan a les sòcies organitzades en grups locals es troben al llarg de l'any una vegada, prèviament a aquesta trobada fan uns debats previs, que això ho anem treballant també, aquestes coses estan passant i és la manera en com s'organitza aquesta cooperativa i com pren les decisions més estratègiques o tal, i això ho traslladem a una estructura digital de participació que dona suport a aquesta cultura d'organització, no la inventa, no fa una estructura nova, senzillament dona suport a una manera de prendre les decisions que ja s'està donant. Sí, és un mirall digital, correcte.
Basically, I'm going to rephrase it a bit because it's too long. But basically, what Núria is saying, it's basically the platform is like a digital mirror of what already is the organization doing. You know, it's like trying to translate all that was already happening before and outside of the platform, and trying to translate, no, and no, basically.
Pensar quines són les millors maneres sobre la plataforma de fer o de donar suport a coses que ja s'estan fent fora.
And think what is the best way for the platform to actually give support to things that are already happening on the organization.
Thank you for your talk. Another question for you, actually. Are you comparing different learnings with other cooperatives who are using Decidim? And how do you integrate this to the adaptation that's specific to the organization you're working with?
Hola. Other cooperatives have a small use of Decidim. Maybe it's the first one I know that use Decidim on that way. So I cannot compare that. because we use Decidim on our cooperative, but it's more on the processes, concretes of some issues, not on that way.
Another question for Núria?
No.
Okay.
Asier era de esta ronda, ¿no? Le puedo preguntar a Asier
sí,
todavía.
sí,
Vale.
gracias.
Yo a Asier te quería preguntar, o sea, bueno, yo conozco bastante los modelos de gobernanza de las universidades porque los viví como estudiante, me impliqué mucho en el activismo estudiantil y para mí siempre he definido los modelos de gobernanza de las universidades como feudales, ¿no? Literalmente, donde hay capas y hay estratos y donde los estudiantes están claramente ahí en el más bajo, ¿no? Y literalmente cuando hay una elección de rector, sus votos cuentan mucho menos. Entonces mi pregunta es, ¿cómo esto, o sea, quizá lo has explicado porque me he perdido una parte de tu charla, pero ¿cuál es la tensión con el modelo de gobernanza existente que está escrito en la ley de universidades con estos procesos participativos como el que vais a hacer con la UPV? And if you want, I can translate very quickly to English. My question is, because here in Catalonia, Spain, the universities has like a governance model that it's quite feudal with those different layers, and the students are in the lower level and they don't have like any real power. And I'm asking Asier to talk about the tension between having like a real participatory process and the legal model of governance that runs universities.
Sí, bueno, quizá lo que está sucediendo en la Universidad del País Vasco es un poco excepcional, porque vamos a decir que el equipo de gobierno actual es resultado de un proceso interno de escucha. Vamos a decir que ha habido un cambio en la comunidad universitaria y eso ha tenido reflejo en una candidatura que también surge de un proceso participativo. Entonces, la tensión que ahora se está dando, entiendo lo que dices, creo que ahora mismo la tensión más importante que está sucediendo es una cosa muy parecida a lo que pudo suceder en el municipalismo. Se llega con mucha fuerza, de abajo hacia arriba, y luego ya dentro de las instituciones cuando nos encontramos las dificultades de mover un transatlántico que tiene toda una cultura organizativa y creo que ahora mismo la extensión estaría desplazada a ese nivel. Habrá que ver si estos cambios provocan cambios también en las jerarquías que tú has descrito. Es que ricasco. Gracias.
Okay, so well, you want me to translate or not to say? Yeah, I should translate. So basically, like the rectorate, it's like an exceptional case what they are seeing in this university because like the team itself came from a listening process, so it's like a new situation, and he draws some parallelisms with what happened here on the whole state of Spain with the municipalism movement on 2015, where there were like new governments of like motivate people that wanted to change things, but then they realized like all the whole institutional transatlantic ship, no, that it's like really difficult to fight from the inside. Something like that, no? Another question, yeah, Michael?
We have some questions for Barcelona. It's interesting because we manage participatory budgeting as well in Italy. So actually, 2 or 3 questions. So if you manage even a sort of physical vote with, I don't know, voting point, and and even like how do you integrate it if you do it? And then about the evaluating process, we were impressed by 70 evaluators. Who were them? How did you convince them to do a good to do a good job? And how did you convince them to use the evaluation module on the platform in the proposal component? Because we didn't manage to do it.
Vale, sobre la primera pregunta, no había votación presencial y votación digital, solamente era digital. Lo que sí que habilitamos puntos de soporte a la votación para facilitar a la gente que no sabía pues, cómo entrar en la plataforma y cómo hacer el voto, pues ayudarles. La votación duró 4 días y en estos 4 días habilitamos, no sé, más de 200 puntos de soporte por toda la ciudad. Es decir, el despliegue fue máximo para ayudar a votar.
So, about the physical vote, there weren't like physical ballot boxes, but there was like 200 support votes, so everyone could go and like vote through the platform physically with support of someone else, and this was during 4 days.
Sobre la evaluación de proyectos, para convencer a los técnicos pasaba por generar este espacio que hemos enseñado, que facilitaba mucho en qué sitio tenías que dar tu respuesta y quedaba muy claro quién no había hecho su trabajo, de alguna manera. Es decir, si estaba en blanco, ahí falta algo y podías hacer el toque de «hey, falta». También es cierto que antes de aplicarlo hicimos 4 o 5 rondas de formación para todos estos técnicos. Era muy importante poderles enseñar cómo sería, qué encontrarían, en qué botón tenían que ir y les gustó, bueno, funcionó las formaciones, por lo tanto fue más fácil implementarlo. También es cierto que como hicimos una edición anterior, fue un caos la valoración técnica. Por lo tanto, cualquier mejora en la valoración técnica la iban a comprar fácilmente.
Okay, so basically, like they designed this new space, and one of the things that they had there is that it was pretty easy to see which evaluator didn't actually make their job. So it's like a bit name and shame, no? You know, like saying, okay, yeah, you didn't do this. And then another thing is that this is the second edition, so the first one was really bad, so whatever thing that you made for the second time and your lessons learned, no? And all the improvements that happened. And the other thing was that they made some training, internal training, like 4 seasons, 4 rounds of internal training, so that also helped people to understand better how the system works and why it works that way.
Y una última cosa sobre convencer, al final, es lo que contaba, como los proyectos están en sitios muy concretos, territorializados, es importante, de un lado, conocer el conocimiento de quien conoce esta plaza, qué es lo que pasa aquí, qué actividades se dan, como la información que te pueden dar desde quien gestiona todo el arbolado de la ciudad, como juegos infantiles. Quiero decir, cada propuesta tenía entre 4 y 6 evaluadores que tenían que decir aportar su conocimiento sobre lo que se estaba proponiendo.
So another thing is that like the proposals were already like categorized by area and also by place. So it's important to actually know who knows better about, for instance, this square and what is happening here and so on. So they can give like an informed evaluation. And yeah, each proposal has between 4 or 6 evaluators. So it was nice to have like a mix, no, between knowledge between them.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have any. We don't have more time for questions, so we're going to pass to the next slot of talks. And my coworker Tom is going to present the speakers.
Bueno, round of applause, everyone. Perfecto. All right, no worries. I hope everyone's doing okay and enjoying those use case sessions. We are now going to move on to the round 2 of lightning talks. The same rules apply. We'll have presentations around the particular space. Around the particular space of artificial intelligence. So our first presentation will be by Matt, and he will be presenting. He's coming from the Civic Tech Field Guide and will be giving a wonderful lightning talk. Matt, the floor is yours.
Hello. So I speak too fast even for native English speakers, so I'm going to try to go slow. Is the mic good enough? Yeah? Okay, cool, thank you. I run the Civic Tech Field Guide, so today we're going to talk about, today we're going to talk about global examples of how participation platforms all over the world, including but beyond Decidim, are using AI as specific features. And everything I'm going to talk about today can be found at civictech.guide. My name is Matt. I have an email address. My career is across government and newspapers and activist campaigns and presidential campaigns and big tech companies. And so the Civic Tech Field Guide includes all of these different sectors. As long as you're using tech for democracy, we include it. Today is about all of the specific features, not hypotheticals, not principles, like things we saw on participation platforms where AI is already being used and one to avoid. This comes from work I did with People Powered, right, which was mentioned the first day. It's the guide to digital participation platforms. Decidim is heavily featured in there. You can check it out at civictech.guide/research. Also, if you don't speak English, all the information is here, so you can translate. In the field guide, we have over 200 digital participation platforms, even more if we can define that more broadly. For this work, we looked at 30 platforms that are already using AI as specific features. That's all we could find earlier this year. There's probably more already. There are more already. The most common ones we saw, and this was at the end of last year, beginning of this year, the most common ways AI was being used was translation, where it's getting better each day, but still struggles with certain languages and struggles with certain terminologies, like maybe your city's acronyms. A lot of natural language processing stuff, which you've probably seen of, extracting categories, clustering proposals, which I'm sympathetic to. If you get 40,000 pages of resident feedback, maybe it helps to boil it down. And then some moderation and basically bots and assistants to help users through your participatory process. So to organize this collection, we just said before, during, and after a participatory process. These are just fake definition buckets. Before, a lot of what nonprofits and cities are doing with AI is just back-end office efficiencies. That's true here also. Some groups are using AI to actually plan their participatory process. There's a really neat use, for example, your priorities in Iceland, where they're making the AI model configurable. So right now they're using OpenAI, but then as all these pro-social, multilingual, public good AI models become available, you could swap them in and out, which I thought was cool. PopVox has a dynamic frequently asked questions. So rather than write what they think people will ask, it actually comes together with what questions people actually asked, and a glossary as well. Smart Groups is actually forming diverse groups using the AI to help do that, and that helps you scale so you can have small groups with very large populations participating. During is obviously where a lot of the magic happens. I mentioned translation and summarizing text. Retrieval augmented generation is to reduce hallucination. The real-time training of the model, I believe Decidim does this with spam moderation. So the actual rules of the spam moderation are based off the stuff you're seeing on your instance of Decidim. Speech transcription, I'm a big fan of. We've talked about digital divide, and lots of people aren't comfortable writing text into a web page for lots of different reasons, including language and digital literacy. And basically, a lot of AI is being used now to let people just talk to the computer or record a transcript, and the video is available. And then they can even approve the transcript to make sure that the AI heard them correctly. Public meeting transcription is happening in a lot of cases, and that's really cool at different levels to help people know what was happening at the meeting without going on a Tuesday night for 3 hours. I mentioned AI chat, you know what that is. User support bots are basically like a co-pilot helping the user, the participant, through your entire process and making sure they don't get stuck anywhere, including generating text. A lot of these proposals for Decidim and other participation platforms are text ideas, and the AI is helping them come up with ideas, refine their ideas. That does introduce issues of like, what did the participant come up with and what did the AI come up with? Generating images, I thought, was a cool example where Urbanist AI lets you reimagine your street in your neighborhood, and it's a good thing to let AI hallucinate in this case. Maybe it adds more trees. Very few are doing videos right now, but I think we're going to see more and more of that as video production becomes easier. Recommendation engines, here we want to be transparent, especially if you're voting on things and making public decisions. How are things being recommended? A good example here is Polis, which has published their formula for how content gets recommended on their platform. Moderating discussions and moderating spam really helps the team running the process. OCR scanning lets people contribute with handwriting. Simulations, you can see how a given policy, for example, like a change in traffic in a digital twin of your city might actually affect your city. And then agentic AI, we're already beginning to see actual agents. For example, agents might go into a small group discussion and filter out what they're talking about to the administrators and to the other groups. And then, fortunately, after is a shorter list. Sense making is this idea. Google is really big on this. Their Jigsaw team actually launched a tool called SenseMaker. It's helping people understand what happened during this participatory process. How were the decisions made? How do we get to these decisions? There's some really nice creative outputs of graphic novels and videos and mind maps of taking the data from the participation. Analytics, including for the public. And my favorite example was seeing how your participation, your contribution, ended up in the end result, which I think that idea alone could be really powerful for democracy. So there's lots of cool features we don't have time to get into today. They're all on our website. And one rant is, I've already seen several talks and videos saying, oh, wouldn't it be cool if politicians could talk to a model of the public instead of talking to the public? And funders were supporting this idea. Yeah, and I mean, even if the model was correct, which is never going to be up to date enough, I think it misses the entire point of democracy, which is that engagement of talking to each other. It's not that democracy gets us the best policy result, it's that we engaged with each other. So that's my rant, and it does exist. I'm seeing already examples of synthetic participation. I think if we remove the people from the participatory process, we've completely missed the point. So one not to do. We keep publishing all these new features we find, and if there's any I missed that you know about, please tell me. We're keeping a list here. And like I said, it's all available here. So if I talk too fast, it's there. It's like 100 pages. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you very much, Matt. That was really, really on time. Well, our next speaker are the team that come from Brazil, and I believe Bruna Pinos is going to give a lovely presentation. The floor is yours. Round of applause if you can, please.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm here representing Brasil Participativo team, and I'm going to present our effort to understand better the behavior of our users and how we can use this to engage them in the platform once more. So here, just a brief introduction of the platform. We use Decidim in a federal scale, in a country scale, not in the city. So every participatory process that we have is from the agencies, federal agencies. This project was launched in 2023, I think. And we have 62 processes there, 38 assemblies, and 1.5 million users there. So we have different, yeah, it's a huge project. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but it's okay. We have different methodology of participation, and the biggest one is using proposals. But we have changed it a little bit because yesterday we closed a participatory text that had 27,000 comments on it. So yeah, we're getting bigger and bigger. And from these proposals, we have a lot of votes, right? We have 1.8 billion votes, but we saw that 80% of them only vote once. The users only vote once. So we have a hypothesis that if we could understand the themes that they're discussing in the proposals, we can engage them more, recommending more proposals for them to vote, and also for the agencies to understand what the people are talking about. So how we can automatically identify this theme. that the people are talking about. And we use that, this hypothesis to create our pipeline using BERTopics to do this identification. So a little bit about the pipeline. We did the data selection and pre-processing. After that, we did the selective embedding and the topic modeling and the validation. For the data selection, we select 10,000 proposals that we have in the platform, split in the trainings and testing corpus. We did the embedding model selection, and we use embedding that uses Portuguese for the training, right? And for the topic modeling was where we spent a lot of time in it, because I will talk more about the semi-supervised approach, because we use seed words to give for the algorithms for it to understand and categorize according to that. And these seed words was created using the Brazilian vocabulary that we have, the standard government vocabulary that we have. And with that, we gave it to a group of specialized people, participatory facilitators, and also political scientists, to improve this vocabulary. And with that, specific for participation, we use as input for our semi-supervised model. And for discussions with this pipeline created, we are using to recommend proposals for the users that is according to the theme, with the theme that they are voting for or they are interested. We are trying to use this theme for segmentation communication, and also for the administration and the agencies. We will do a report with insights of the themes that they are talking about, people are talking about, and they are not talking about as well. But yeah, this is our how can I say, our solution for the engagement problem that we have in Brasil Participativo. But I'm here just presenting. Guilherme was the one behind the technical part of it, and if you have any questions, you can ask him as well. But that is it. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Thank you so much, Bruna. Wonderful, beautiful presentation. Our last speaker within this slot of artificial intelligence is Diego. The floor is yours, my good sir. Round of applause for Diego.
Sorry, just a bit of technical stuff, because I had some slides that move in funky ways. And the cable. Thank you. Con este que ya lo tengo probado. Okay. Okay. So, okay, it's there. Just a sec. Okay. Thank you for waiting. First of all, it's really an honor to be here and really exciting to be after this past projects. Thank you, Matt, for the nice overview, and Bruna and the Brasil Participativo team for like I'm going to talk about similar stuff, but it's really exciting to see how you're a bunch of steps ahead with the implementation, with the stakeholders, negotiation and talks that are the governance and really making things happen, hard part. I'm going to talk a bit more about from a research perspective. I've been working about the past 2.5 years back in Mexico in an interdisciplinary lab. I used to work there, and now at the Universitat Pompeu Fabra on a master's and hopefully soon a PhD proposal as well. And it has to do with how we can make sense of large volumes of text from participatory platforms, especially from Decidim-based data, using this space of representation that are embeddings that was already touched upon. So we can talk about the technical stuff. I'll be there in a moment, but the key word, I think, before LLMs or embeddings or topic modeling or whatever, I think is representation, and then we'll get to agencies or NAT about how we interpret and deal with these limitations and possibilities. So we have... Sorry? Ah, okay. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. So, before going to too technical stuff, we have like a huge challenge with Decidim instances. There's a bunch of them, of course, a growing number of really rich proposal participatory systems going on. They are really good to organize, structure, give purpose, stages, a scope to participatory processes. And while they do this, and while people interact with these components and spaces, they leave some data behind or in the front. It's not just a capture on their back of the data. They explicitly gave some data. Some of this data is like explicit demonstrations of political will, like voting, supporting, assisting to a meeting. But some of what I personally think could be some of this most valuable data is the one that it's too difficult to process, right? This is the more qualitative textual content of participation, which actually kind of connects with what these platforms would try to do. That is like give a place for everyone to express in their own terms what they're living and put their thoughts together on how to change their shared realities, right? So not as when I say value in data, it's not as in an asset that can be used for training and monetizing, but to see how their agency from their perspective, context-oriented visions can actually intertwine. So we have too much text to process. This can be really hard to feasibly process and make sense of, but I would argue we could even add much more text beyond the one that is accessible through the data API or the open data modules, because my experience, for example, with Decidim instances in the political party back in Mexico is sometimes you need a mirror of the offline thing that's happening on the platform, right? So we can use LLMs to bring text that it's produced during offline sessions, transcriptions, audio transcriptions, even photographs of notes. So we have the data from the platforms. We could do a lot of more text within that is relevant for the process, such as relevant laws, documentations, relevant open data sets, these digital or digitized documents, collective notes, and of course the API data from within the platform and its ontology that I'm really focusing on. So what I'm gonna focus on this part, right? So all this text, could be living in a shared semantic space, right? So this allows us to explore these patterns, explore recurrent themes, but also retrieve in a more intuitive way what we are saying collectively in a reflective manner, right? So I'm not gonna dive too deep into the technical aspects, but with any Decidim instance, I've been making some trials with the Brasil Participativo, Decidim Barcelona, and some others. We can generally go through some pipeline, like the one that Bruna described, where we churn our text data. It could be semi-structured data, because we have the textual paragraphs, title, descriptions, and then some metadata about the scope, the number of boats, or whatever other columns we have. And we can put all of this text into a high-dimensional semantic space. That's what representation models, not the generative part, but the representation models can give us. A semantic map of what we are collectively saying across years, across processes, and when this is an encoding-decoding problem, right? So we are trying to understand how, or we encode information in ways that the machine can process and do something on the LLM space, but then we need some way to decode that way of thinking, or thinking, maybe it's a metaphor, but that way of processing information that we can actually understand. So from the 1,024 dimensions of a model that can capture a lot of semantic details, we eventually would want somewhere to flatten that semantic space into 2D or 3D visualizations where we can explore, right? So going into some of these components that I'm really excited about, this is a kind of a new player in the visualization space. It has some years, and right now I'm really excited. It's not a project of mine. It's of Nikita Rokotian of Interacta Studio, I believe. This is a GPU-accelerated graphics force layout. It's a really powerful data visualization engine and library based on JavaScript, TypeScript, and it's actually right now being part of an incubated project of the OpenJS Foundation. That's really exciting because the documentation, the API is growing, the examples are, it's a place where life is going on. And I have been experimented with this engine with Decidim data and also data from other sources and other projects, but specifically with Decidim data and a custom interface. The Cosmos family has also like a freemium, like Creative Commons license of a web app you can use. Also like a Cosmograph widget you can put inside like a Jupyter Notebooks or Google Colab or whatever, but Jupyter Notebooks. But what really excites me the most is the totally open MIT license WebGL visualization platform, because you can go between different visualizations of really complex relationships that can be, for example, this is one of the first things I did. You can use networks and embeddings, right? So this is like from 2016 to 2024, all the comments in the Decidim Barcelona platform, and like in this mirrored view, how on the left side we can see user to process edge relationships. On the right side we see semantic clusters. So we can see like this, compare this kind of topologies. What is like the architecture, the traces we leave with our active participation among processes where context is traceable, but also if we flattened all of these expressions, how do they cluster together into common themes? Then I did like a more customized interface with the Cosmos library, and this was using the proposals, all of the proposals in Decidim Barcelona since 2016, and I tried to experiment with this kind of scrolly telling views and transitions from network to embeddings, try to explore topics or the content of them. And I believe this is like an opportunity, of course, of scaling qualitative analysis, but what in this context of participatory platforms, what I think could be more relevant is the opportunity of a reflective or reflexive interface, right? Of course, in reflexive interface, I mean how we can understand what we're talking about collectively and not just this top-down dashboard from the admin side where I'm like the Batman of democracy when I can see everything and no one can see my view. I think this could be like a more wider and collective view of what we're all collectively doing and saying and advancing. But of course it has a lot of, like with everything that uses some kind of representation, being LLM-based representation, but also like visual codings, like when you are visualizing anything, you're restricting your view, you're making choices on what is visible, what's not. And one of the, well, there are a lot of things that have to do with the biases of this, both of the scenarios. Is on? Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you. So something you all know, biases and limitations of pre-trained models. This is something to keep always in mind, and how can we, and that the Brazil team is like a really head start into this, how can we add some human validation to it? There's like the training and inference economic and environmental cost, which we can use more specific context reach, but on a specific scenario models. But the thing I want to emphasize more is this is all really interesting, but let's not confuse like semantic preponderance with consensus, right? If something is really mentioned, we don't really know if that's an equivalent of the popular will, or in what sense. If they're talking about housing taxes, bike lanes, it's in which sense are they? But given that, I think it's a really cool opportunity, if anyone's interested, to try to see how this can advance this sovereign usage of our systems in this kinds of scenarios, right? How we can collectively understand better what we're putting on the center of our collective processes, how can they be made more accessible, more intuitive, and interpretable. And, well, thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Diego. Since we started really late this morning, we've only got time for like 1 or 2 maximum questions. So if anyone has any questions, is there a microphone?
Okay, it's working. Good. Question for Diego. Thank you very much for your talk. I'm wondering, you specified that the framing of what data you see and how you interpret it is quite decisive in what the outputs are. Is there any governance project about how do we frame these datas?
Do you mean in terms of embedding visualizations as a whole, or?
Yeah, or even use cases.
Yeah.
How does the governance of the framing happen?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because a lot of the literature and research, not on participatory platforms, but on BERTopic, there's like a huge elephant in the room, that there's like a huge outlier cluster that's like sending things we can't cluster cohesively into a theme under the rug. And people are trying to see, okay, what do we do with this? If we're talking about customer reviews, it may not be that of a deal, but if it's an expression of political will of a citizen, yeah, we can just toss it under the rug. So on the like more scientific community doing things with BERTopic, there's a lot of discussions of which algorithms of clusterization or the validation things like the Brazil team is doing could lead to a more fair or but my point with that is at least transparent is good. At least make transparent what your limitations are. And on the more participatory side of visualization, I haven't seen much articulated efforts yet. I hope to see them. And I wanted to say something else, but I'll maybe to tell you later. Thank you.
I think we have another question here.
Yeah, this is a question for the team from Brazil. So first, could you tell us a little bit about what has been most crucial to scaling the users on the platform? And my second question is about, we know that there's been a little bit of a decline in the participatory budgeting in some places in Brazil, but also that the Lula administration has been talking about maybe some participation in the federal budget process. Could you share a little bit more about those aspects?
Sure. This is a problem about the number of users is a problem that we have since the launch, because we launched with a process that was really huge in Brazil. And I don't know if you have anything to say about it. No, yeah, okay. But we are trying, we have a partnership with DataPrev, that is a infrastructure a public, how can I say, company. So they're dealing with the scale part of thing in the platform. But the participatory budget, maybe Poppy can help us with that, if you want to.
Yeah, about the was one of the Lula's campaign promises to do a national process for participatory budgeting, but they couldn't at the moment because the new Ministry of the General Secretariat, Guilherme Boulos, that is in charge for 1 week, is telling about that. But until now, we couldn't do that because of the struggles on separating territorially what the investments from federal government. So then they could not. There were people responsible for that, but they could not deliver a process that convinced the officials and Lula itself that's going to work. But the new ministry is telling that he told that, quote, yes, it's very difficult to do, but it's possible. So let's see if this thing could be solved. But in parallel, we're working with offer the platform for cities like Participa Cidades, using one instance of Decidim with multiple tenants. So we can push participatory budgeting on local level, providing tools for cities. So that's what's going more close to happen.
Thank you very much, Poppy. Thank you for the presentations. We're going to have a short break now and return in about 15-20 minutes for coffee. On returning, Andreas is going to host round 3 of the lightning talks, which will be about research and SaaS. So have a coffee, toilet break, and see you back here.